Hi there. Glad you're hopping on with us today on the podcast where we are in Boston. Well, I'm actually still here in Chicago, but I'm talking to my client in Boston. And on the podcast today, you're going to hear from Veronika Trufanova, and she's the development director at the Emerald Necklace Conservancy. Now, I'm introducing and interviewing the development director, which is a little different angle for me to take on these case study podcasts, but I hope you enjoy hearing directly from the fundraiser in charge of revenue generation for the organization. Now, obviously, I met Nika, she goes short for Nika, through their amazing leader, Karen Monty-Broddick. And so Karen came to me through a mutual introduction and another client, which I'm thankful for that, with an amazing vision for the necklace. They have just come off, such a remarkable couple of years post-COVID, when I think anywhere in the country, we never needed green space more during that time in our lives. And so Karen was getting ready to go into this huge moment of growth and opportunity through a strategic planning exercise. And that was a really fun process for me to watch. And oftentimes leaders ask me, wait, should I work with you before a strategic plan happens or after a strategic plan? And it depends, really. We somewhat did this in tandem so that we could strengthen their annual fund so that when that strategic plan came down from the heavens and landed on their laps, that they had the processes, the team, the activities, and that rhythm in place that really strengthens an annual fund that then can grow a capital campaign, an endowment campaign, and really transform the organization in all those different ways. So I really hope you enjoy the conversation of this amazing group that is steadily securing 4, 5, 6, 7-figure gifts and be inspired just by the work that they're doing in that amazing city. Enjoy.
Nika, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Sherry.
You bet. Okay, so we're talking all things Emerald Necklace today. And I guess as I do with every guest, how do you start by maybe just giving what is the Emerald Necklace? I love how you guys phrase it as this 1,100 acre communal backyard. I mean, for all people in Boston. And so talking a little bit about the Conservancy, I feel like we know what that is, but I have learned working with you guys for a year now. There's a lot you're doing over there.
Yeah, and we should never take for granted or assume anything. I myself have been on and off life, 30-year Bostonian, and I didn't really even understand that there was an Emerald Necklace until I took this job. But what it is, it's a historic linear park system that was designed by Frederick Law Olmsted, who's the blue chip name in landscape architecture. He's the designer of Central Park in New York City, which is where most folks have heard about him from. But about 100 other public spaces around America. So he really kind of defined the landscape architecture vernacular in this nation. He came to Boston in the late 1800s to kind of troubleshoot a water treatment solution in the Back Bay Fens. And he ended up building a 5.5-mile stretch of parkland that goes from downtown Boston all the way out to Franklin Park in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury. So it's a huge gift to the city. The city invested in 150 years ago, and now we partner as a conservancy to steward an 1,100-acre landscape. And just for reference, Central Park's about 900 acres, so we're talking bigger than Central Park.
Huge.
We're talking a park system that also goes through Boston, the neighboring town of Brookline, and then parts of it are on land that is actually Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the Conservancy, we're the only administrative entity that is stewarding the entire park system. It's land, it's trees, it's water. And then we navigate the bureaucracies and partnerships of 3 public entities, which is, a gift and an opportunity. And it is a gift to the city. And during the pandemic, especially, I'm sure many listeners found their closest and farthest green spaces to enjoy and spread out. And the necklace, for reference, could fit 434,000 Bostonians, arms out, 6 feet apart. So that was a really big indicator of the space. So that's just the landmass. And then what we do as the Conservancy, which is about 25 years old, is help our public partners monitor and care for the tree canopy. There's about 30,000 trees in the necklace, and there's really been a lot of heightened awareness of the benefit of green canopies in cities for air quality, stormwater absorption, asthma, cooling the city, all those kinds of things. The necklace, I should mention, was built as green infrastructure, as one of the first examples of green infrastructure in the nation. So it's also a giant bathtub. Not only is it a public park, but it's a place for rainwater to be stored when we see increasing flooding events and things like that. So, maintain pathways. We advocate for access points into the park, make sure that, not only is the grass being mowed and the trash being removed, but, invasive plants are being removed, and we help a lot with that. Tree pruning so that nothing falls, in the winter and the windy storms. And then a healthy dose of community programming, community information and resource sharing, visitor amenities, and things like that.
I love it. And I've gotten to eat lunch with you in the necklace, which was beautiful on the next full day.
Yeah.
Okay, Nika. So one point I wanted to share today, and you've already proved it. I told you I went to lunch with a mutual colleague when I was visiting Boston. And we both know you, and Nika is the development director of the organization. And she gave you a compliment, and I said, I 100% agree with that. And that was that you speak like a program person. You know this organization in and out. And already I'm like, oh, man, you know it. Now, obviously, all my development directors know it, but I feel like there's you've really been a student of this. I just love to hear your journey into fundraising. And I really think this is you've taken that like ownership of the program and ownership, in this case, of the necklace to the next level.
Oh, thank you. That's such a nice compliment. Yeah, I was reflecting a little bit on this as we scheduled this conversation. I mean, my journey into fundraising was by happenstance. And the joke is, I've been in interviews for development jobs where people say no kid grows up wanting to be a fundraiser. And nor did I, but I studied art history as an undergrad, and there was not really a particular career path for that, unless you specifically wanted to become a curator or go to get a graduate degree. And so I thought I would start with an art museum, and an art museum, one of the many beautiful ones in Boston, is the Harvard Art Museums. And the job they had was development systems, data systems coordinator, not a job an art historian thinks of taking. So I landed a gig managing a donor database migration, dream first project. So I was in that position for about 10 or 11 months, and then I got absorbed into more of the activities of the department. So I think I kind of, like a little gopher peeking your head out above the cubicle, I quickly identified myself as someone extroverted and interested, and obviously really cared about the art piece of it. So from there, I pivoted to membership, the annual fund, development operations, and then I went on and worked at the Asian Art Museum of San Francisco in institutional giving. So reflecting back, I've always had a very strong adherence to the data and data integrity and mining the database and all the wonderful things that lie in there. But also, I think in that institutional giving path, writing with foundations and companies, you really did have to learn everything backwards and forwards. And you were the person getting the exhibition proposal together almost earlier than the curator did, because funders were working on such long lead times. So I appreciate that. And I really wanted to branch out and give my talents in an environmentally focused area. I've always cared about what's happening with our planet. As much as an art history major, knows scientifically how to do. But this was an opportunity to pursue that. And the necklace certainly, other than being kind of a climate resilience mechanism at its core, there's a lot of really cool tree science. There's also a lot of, social things happening with environmental justice and green space equity. And seeing all that play out in an 1,100 acre, footprint, which is about 40% of Boston's green space, is just so interesting and engaging. How a private and public partnership happens to care for land like that for the public.
I love it. Okay, so when we first met, the organization was getting ready to embark on a pretty robust strategic planning exercise. And you'd come off growth. You guys have had, you're a strong organization, successful in so many ways. I think you were also anticipating, usually out of a strategic plan comes the need for more money, if we can cut right to the chase. You've wrapped up that strategic planning process. It actually was an amazing, robust process to even watch from an outsider's perspective. Can you kind of talk me through, ultimately, why did you guys reach out? What was that moment that you felt like the organization wanted to take advantage of?
Yeah, and I think, my partner, my wing woman, or I'm her wing woman, Karen Motti-Brodek, is our visionary and energetic leader who I think reached out and found you through, again, a mutual connection in the green space sector. I think it would be fair to say that we're feeling a little bit stuck. We saw ourselves being successful with individual campaigns. When I started in 2018, we did a major lift for an art installation to celebrate our 20th anniversary. And for an organization that had never done an art exhibition, we not only pulled it off, but we raised nearly $1 million, in addition to a $2 million regular budget. We had some really great fundraisers with, really successful figures. And right as we were talking to you, Sherry, we were marking the bicentennial of Frederick Law Olmsted, which not only was also a giant fundraising push, but it also just brought to the fore all the needs that are placed on parks, all the ways that they're serving the public now, all the ways they fail to serve certain segments of our community, and how much more work needs to be done. And obviously, as we grew our friend and partner circle through that effort, we just started hearing and understanding and appreciating more what our platform and leadership could bring in terms of improving the park experience for all. But, we were a team, of 9 when I started, maybe 14 or 15 when you joined us. And I should say that up until recently, thanks to you, I was director of direct development and external relations. So we were in a very robust cycle of, getting the word out, getting the politicians involved, getting the grants in, the corporate sponsorship, the Party in the Park, which is our major fundraiser. It was a very
it's a lot.
Busy, fun, full, robust fundraising program. But it just felt like, with our vision, with Karen's vision, leadership, energy, and the donors that we're lucky to have in our world, that we could be doing more. And it just felt like there was this feeling that we weren't breaking through. So ultimately, it came to having advice and guidance on how to work smarter, because we knew that the ingredients were there and the recipe needed some tweaks.
Yeah. And the need is so huge. Could you speak to this one? I think this was so interesting to me, that the parks that you mentioned that are, or some other parks that are, they're even bigger, you have a smaller budget. And this, so it's like, I don't think you'll run out of things to do, or, programs to invest in. Could you speak a little bit about just the need? And then also, sometimes I find that organizations that I'm working with who, there's this public or municipal angle or element, donors don't always know you need money. They think, oh, my tax dollars are going to that. There's just some things we have to clarify for people.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're completely right. There is a knee-jerk response of, aren't my tax dollars taking care of this? And, we emphasize that as a conservancy, as a nonprofit entity that is actually stewarding the entirety of the necklace, we are beyond town lines, and we can help the city and town partners do work that maybe their own bureaucratic processes are not well equipped to do. We can work with consultants that may not be the lowest bidder. We can treat trees for specific ailments that are not in the budget. So we bring a lot to the table to complement what the public sector is doing, but also we have a very robust agenda of our own. So we can push through, a signage program. Well, I should not say push through. We would talk to everybody about it. We
collaborate
with.
Yeah.
We could collaborate, but we could lead the charge.
Yes.
And, signage, or, again, maps and visitor amenities, or lighting programs. So we are dedicating ourselves with time and dollars that not all of our public partners, who are also stewarding a lot of other acreage beyond the Emerald Necklace in their jurisdictions, can do. And so in terms of putting numbers on this need, when I started, our budget was about $2 million. Our overall need is closer to $5 today. And then we just finished our strategic plan. So we were able to forecast out a 5-year budget, and it's looking like approximately a $15 million plan right now, but still being refined. So, and that's still kind of measured based on the time we have now on our team, the growth that we expect. Obviously, we could be doing multiples of that. I mean, as a frame of reference, we did some benchmarking with peer organizations. Central Parks Conservancy, that we are often likened to, has a $90 million budget. We have about a $4 million budget, but their structure is a little bit different. We also have organizations here in town that have similar budgets to ours, but the acreage that they are stewarding is in the tens or maybe the low hundreds. So we're talking, factors of 10 and more for the amount of ground we cover. And because, what I've found as a fundraiser coming from an art museum background is that the park is not a space with walls and a roof, and a gate, the cows who comes in and out. It's porous. It's more than the park. It's the communities that are next to the park. And even if they can't come into the park, they're still part of it. Either they're benefiting from it or they stand to benefit from it if we made certain steps for inclusion and welcome. It's transportation. It is, climate resilience. It's water. So when you think about it in all those dimensions, it's so much more than meets the eye. It's so much more than, swings and benches and trees.
Right.
It's just, and the green space is just playing a more and more important role in what a healthy city infrastructure is. People are recognizing that more and more. So we expect it to continue to grow.
Well, the strategic plan calls for that. So we have just seen your final strategic plan, and you internally with your amazing team and coworkers have started saying, okay, so what does it actually take to fund all the amazing things that we want to do? Nika, a lot of people come to me who have done strategic plans a couple of years back, and they're stuck because they haven't been able to actually obtain the funding to do all the awesome things that they planned out. And so I loved when I saw just, even of recent, you guys coming to the table and saying, okay, well, here's what it's going to cost. This is what it's looking like. These are the conversations we're preparing to have with funders to say, this is our need today, and this is what we anticipate that need being. Can you talk a little bit about just how you're even starting now to see those conversations about growth and gifts, and as you prepare to sit down and share the strategic plan with donors and funders?
Yeah, I think one of the pivotal reframes that have happened working with you, Sherry, is I think the word you seem to articulate the need is put in the thinking and the planning and the cost analysis of what it will take to do the work. And we're so used to, as fundraisers, as nonprofit leaders, to scaling and to saying, if we get all of this, it'll be this much. If we don't, we don't, but you still have to allocate the time to get that money. And whether you might as well get all of it, rather than go back and raise the scale. So I think it's been incredibly powerful. It doesn't mean that everything has to be on steroids and you're like ballooning your budgets, but if you're really truthful, and I mean really truthful, it's not just what it costs to take the cost of pruning the trees and getting the contractors, it's attracting the staff. It's retaining the staff. There's a lot of young staff out there, and we've learned through our strategic plan something we know intuitively as humans, that relationship building takes time. And so longevity and, stickiness to the mission and the institution is as valuable as any of your program dollars. So what does it really cost to run the organization, to, make sure you have the best technology, the best, databases, all the practices. And it comes up to a larger round number, and donors take they look at you in a different light. I think when you can actually say what I want, what I need, not what I could use or could get by with. So I found that incredibly empowering. And it also has the necessary outcome of getting you to reprioritize who you're talking to. So, a $2,500 grant would have taken me, would have been a goody two shoes and done an A+ job on it a few years ago. And now I'm like, this is time that I could spend talking to someone who could do 25,000. And so
Right.
we're all human. I think we all have activities or whatever our jobs are that are more appealing or less scary, right? For some, it's like emails is better than phone calls, or crunching numbers is better than coming up with a strategic plan. But when you put some really real dollars and put some truths in front of yourself, you automatically, reshuffle your responsibilities so that you know where, the dollars that are going to make an impact are the dollars you're chasing harder.
Yeah, we've spent so much time in the numbers, which I think often surprises people. But really, that is what tells you, well, that's what we need to stop doing, and that's what we need to start doing. It's all in the numbers and based on that honest conversation about what the financial need of the organization is.
Yeah.
What other aspects of our work, made a difference for you, Nika, if you can speak to that?
Well, certainly, you're cheering us on, having kind of an external objective third party. A lot of us are just so focused on the mission and the work and the vicissitudes, right? The wins, the losses, the ups and downs. And to have someone who has a different perspective and sees wins differently, just kind of helping us recognize when to clap for ourselves and share the good news has been tremendous. I think the pacing, on the one hand, slowing down kind of the annual fund and annual activity cycle has been, a specific step towards that, but also recalibrating how long some of these conversations take and being patient and being cognizant. And that's still a work in progress, getting the quick buck with a year-end appeal to your board versus, quick reply, maybe you edit that, but, versus longer term, slower boil conversations that can lead to something much bigger for the institution, even if they don't land in the specific quarter you had planned for them to land in. So that's something that we're still adjusting to, but also I think diversifying the asks. So you still have the corporate, donations that come in at certain times of the year. You still have the party that always happens in May. You still have the volunteer days and the pipeline of companies that feed that program line. But making room and making that part of your plan and making those squishy expectations part of the MO is what we're working on right now.
I love it. It feels counterintuitive to slow down in fundraising, when I think the sector has just always told us faster, quicker, deadline driven. The money is when we slow down and we pause and we let it take the time to marinate and all of those good things.
And I have to say, some of the things you said early on in our engagement is, it's lumpy, right? You put in the time at the beginning, like any relationship with any funder, so that at some point when you need them to reply quickly or consider something out of cycle, you have built that trust and they know enough about you to expedite that for you.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest, tangible outcome that's come from our work together?
I love the gift chart. I do. That's one piece of it. But also, I'm a huge believer in budgets and spreadsheets, and that's, bringing that from my foundation work, but bringing the team along with that and having a partner on the finance side that is in the numbers with me and taking the dreams and making a plan, a plan that creates a timeline and a budget that for me is like half my work is done. Now I have something specific to go to funders with. And that, goes back to that articulating a true need and figuring out how to break it down into what size impact people can bring to bear with their philanthropy. So putting some method to the madness, putting some rails in place so that at the end of the day, you can always say, I'm spending all this time with this person. Are they going to be on this gift chart at some point? Because if they're not, let's just cut our losses or reassign. It's not that people are left behind. It's that whoever's spending their time on them needs to be commensurate with where they're going to end up making an impact. I think that's a responsibility you have.
It's not the right time for them.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, the shifts that you've kind of moved into. What does life look like for the organization? Maybe I'll even say your department, because earlier on you talked about that shift from you really overseeing so many different areas of not only development but marketing, communications, is strategic engagement. Tell me how that is. What life looks like for your department and the organization.
Yeah, so my department looks very different from when we started. I've cleaved. I have a brand new, amazing colleague as director of marketing, and there's a real clarity to what's development and what isn't. Whereas before, I could spend, 80% of my time on external relations thing, and then the 20% of development sometimes happened, after hours or when I had to like squirrel away the time, because external factors are many, in an organization like this, in a park system that stewards, goes through 12 neighborhoods. So the team has split, and, we have great colleagues helping each other out, two hands clapping. The way we've organized our president's time a little bit, we've made sure she has blocks of time for development meetings, and her assistant is driving meetings with me and my colleagues and filling those slots. So that's been operationalized. We've created portfolios for our fundraisers, and then for people who are not on the development team, we assign them some folks too. So we really look at the whole organization. We know everybody is carrying relationships forward and has vendors and community members, et cetera. But there is now a way to kind of formalize and add methodology where people get prospects assigned to them. They have a development team member that can help them through that stuff. And of course, we really rely on our database to track all this activity and report out on it. Still a work in progress, I know it's everybody's dream to have every single contact report and meeting in there, but it's so much more the DNA of the development operation, how people interact with donors. Just feeding the database has always been a mantra. And then we share wins. I think that's just something we need to remember. Whatever organization we're in, just to make sure we're seeing where we're when colleagues are getting successes in their areas, and just championing each other on, because so much of it is psychological. People will say, "Oh, your job must be so hard. Asking people for money is hard," and it is. This is like, we live in a capitalist society where money is one of the top values. So getting people to give of it can be challenging, and a lot of it has to do, I think, with our confidence and our belief in our mission, but our confidence in ourselves as fundraisers as well. So I'm a big believer in cheering everybody on.
I love it. I had a coach once who I think strengthened this muscle for me, and then you get it like on the back end, where I would tell her something great, and she'd say, "Oh, what'd you do to celebrate?" And I was like, "Nothing." and I just realized I was kind of down on myself, and I thought, I don't think I did that very well, and I ruminated on that. But I was very quick to move on when I had a win, and
because there's always 500 more things you need to do. Yeah. So donors love to hear about your successes, and they love to hear your excitement. And there's nothing more authentic than excitement of something that went well.
Yeah, celebrate with them. So Nika, give me some examples, or maybe I'll just ask you: are gifts growing? Are you shifting more donors to kind of general operating gifts? Tell me how that's going for you.
We certainly are having success in getting people, we're trying very hard, and we're going on record as this is something we want to do, as shifting to one solicitation conversation in a year as much as we can. As many organizations, I think, have this. We have our annual fund, we have a major fundraiser in the spring. Sometimes we have some special, like, time sensitive initiatives. And so we, end up going to folks several times during the year. And some people are very receptive to it, but by and large, I think people are confused and they don't want to be, considering they're giving 7 times in a year. I'm exaggerating, but so we are trying to be transparent with donors. And I've had these conversations with some donors where they're like, well, what does this look like? What does it mean you want us to do our best gift? What does that look like? What is that number? They want me to pin it down. And it's a much more inclusive and trying to be transparent conversation around how the institution can benefit from their gift versus saying, buy a ticket or buy a table or, do your this and check it off your list. So it may not translate into the more dollars in that instant, but it grows trust. It grows wanting to bring more people to the mission, get more board members involved. I am seeing bigger gifts, yes, in several conversations where I've used the gift chart. It's helping me also ask for higher levels because I see my gift chart and I see where the dents, what can make a difference. And, donors at that, we'll do a lot of, we talk about top of the pyramid and really segmenting your donors, and the folks that are investors want to be brought along. And I think they want to help cook in the kitchen. They want to see the need, they want to shape the need, and then they want to respond to the need. So getting them in earlier, right? Rather than saying, well, we baked this cake, you need to put the icing on it or whatever.
Yes.
We need this many dollars or, overall is generating, bigger gifts, yes, but I think longer lasting relationships, and then the ability to turn around and then create excitement in their own networks because they've been part of the process. They've been participating in the creation of the ask.
That's exciting. What other good things came from our work? Or so I always ask people surprises or, I didn't know we're going to be working on that together.
I'm trying to think. I love the ease with which you just spin little suggestions, we can be stuck in, we all bring our own psychology or our experience. And I think some of us get stuck in the practice. We're in the dynamic. For some of us, we have our board members in a place of high regard, and then we're like afraid to ask for too much. Sherry, you've really helped us remind us that these are partners in our mission, and they come to the organization to help move us forward. And moving us forward might look like, these are some concrete examples, right? Like they need to return your calls, or they need to, make time for you. They need to tell you how they want to participate. We need to give them options. It doesn't all look the same for everybody. Reminding them what a great mission this is that we're all, building and nourishing together. And then, just the ease with which I think you dispel like worries and, we might have a long history with someone, or we maybe sent them the wrong email one time, and we still carry that baggage of like, oh gosh, what if I mess up again? But it's that, like you said, like the squaring of the shoulders and the remembering that we're all here to move the park system and the service to the community forward, and we're inviting them to have a seat at that table. And the fact, I think giving ourselves grace too, that not everything is going to work to plan. We're still going to have those, emergency, amazing opportunity to invest right now, even though we had one conversation earlier in the year, we're still human. You make a plan that's big enough and has enough of a margin for the swishiness, because we are all at the end of the day interacting with humans, and their circumstances change. And, we are I was just submitting a really major grant, and it said, like, what are some of the risks you could encounter doing this work? Like, I don't know, another pandemic, climate change, some other major area of focus for the city. We are working in a public arena. And so we have to give ourselves that margin and be okay with staying on our toes and pivoting.
Yeah. Well, it's been really fun. I mean, obviously working with Karen and your ops team and Jamie and yourself and your board is incredible. I mean, it's been so nice.
They are incredible.
It's been so nice meeting them and just having nice conversations with them as well. But I oftentimes feel like, it's the objectivity that I can bring because I'm not carrying the weight that you're carrying. But also it really is a hours to dollars, which, is the approach I teach, because you were already a great fundraiser. You came to be established and already doing great things, but oftentimes it's simply a reallocation of time so that you can do more of what you're great at and spend the time, which I think is a strength of yours, of not only being relational, but also having a head for the fundraising operations and the process and the really technical aspect of fundraising. So it's been fun to watch you kind of strengthen what was already there and get success early. Nika,
and I will say one other thing is, you come to this conversation a lot saying, it doesn't matter if it's parks or puppies or, poverty or food, like some of the mechanics and some of the strategy to this is the same. So I know, I don't know that you heard it from our organization, but you said some of your funders or some of your clients come and say, well, it's, in our area, it's like this, or in my, the industry, you have to really, but, one thing we didn't really talk about is like the business sense of it. And I think that's the strength. That's one of the things that you got to look at this as an organization that you sustain. For you to make an impact, for you to, do the service, you have to have the rudiments and the infrastructure in place. And so a lot of it just comes back to kind of smart, thinking smart with your dollars and cents.
Yeah, it then changes your conversations when you're able to sit down and have an investor level conversation with a donor who has probably also scaled a business, and you can connect in a greater way. And I've seen you do that. Nika, what advice would you give a young fundraiser that maybe is hearing this? I didn't tell you I was going to ask that, but I do feel like a lot of people even are kind of coming into the industry after the craziness of the last few years. Is there anything you're like, if I would have known way back then?
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing I feel like if I would have known. I would say I've found success being curious and never discounting any conversation you're dragged into, whether willing or kicking and screaming. Stay curious, stay included. Like 90% of the things where I said, like, why am I in this? Later I end up being in it for something longer or more serious, or dealing with that person I met with, or being informed about that issue. So all of it, I would say, like, put it away into your filing cabinet. It's all going to grow your, understanding of your ecosystem, of the products you're putting out. As a fundraiser, there should be nothing that's too tangential for you to understand. It's all going to come into play. And one piece of advice, I don't remember if I got it from you, Sherry, or recently, just like someone said this, lean into where the energy is. There's always those donors that like look so perfect on paper, and they like have, the gift to every organization like yours, but not yours. And, you've tried and you've coffeed and you danced and you this, and it's like that movie, like they're just not that into you, maybe not right now. So it's okay. Like, it's okay after 8 tries to put it on ice and, call the people that are calling you and showing up for you, and go to where the energy is. Cause also in terms of your own, self-care and like the energy you're spending, you have to like refill your cup and nourish your passion with the people that are passionate with you.
That's good.
And then you will have plenty of times to go after the hard ones. That's never going to go away.
Or they'll circle back around. The timing wasn't right.
And I would say, as I get older, and I think that's always been true in life, like people change, situations change. People who might have been, really against some issue you're on, or, just not focused on your area. Something happens in their life or in the world. All of a sudden trees are like on every page of every article. So you do you be respectful with all your donors. And the door is always open if they want to re-engage.
Okay, well, awesome. Well said. How can people find you if they want to connect with you, follow you, and the organization? Could you just share that?
So we're at www.emeraldnecklace.org. I am on LinkedIn. I think you can email me at development@emeraldnecklace.org. I have a long Russian name, so I don't want to spell that all out today.
I'll put it in the show notes.
You can put it in the notes. Would love to hear from anyone. Happy to dispense advice.
I love it.
Thank you,
Well,
Sherry.
thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I love it. Thank you.